Welcome to this topic video on React components and most specifically React class components. So here we're going to learn why we might want to keep something that we'll call state and where we'll keep that within React. Okay, we're going to learn how to properly set this state stuff in React so React can do stuff, react to it, get it? Okay, and we're going to learn how to properly do that for primitive values, arrays, and objects. Arrays and objects are a little bit more tricky, but we've got some nice things from JavaScript that we've learned that'll help us out. We'll learn how to use common events like button clicks and things like that, change events, etc. Okay, with React. Okay, React makes that pretty easy to do. Okay, we don't have to do much fancy. Okay, we're going to learn, since we're dealing with classes and things like that, we got to deal with this. Okay, it's part of what we have to deal with because we're dealing with React. We're dealing with classes in different contexts and stuff like that. We're going to learn how to do that via JavaScript bind, and we're going to go a little bit more into depth in the bind, so we can use that to help us with clean up our React code, even when we're not just worrying about binding this. Okay, we're going to learn about React data flows. You'll hear people mention data flows up and functions call up, down. Sorry, data flows down and functions call up. We're going to learn what that means. Okay, these wonderful expressions. But what are you talking about? Some readings, state and life cycle, MDN on event handlers, and React event handling. Okay. Why? Why are we going to deal with class components? And you're going, why aren't you going to teach us about React hooks? Well, we have a limited amount of time. Function components are the simplest components we get out of React. You could say class components are the most complicated, okay, with React hooks falling in between. Okay, so that's why. If you need, okay, so we're going to learn about the more complicated component now. They let us define components with internal state. Okay, they let our components participate and extend components' life cycles, and we'll learn about that. Okay, now, so we have this Quizomatic we've been talking about, this thing to help students test themselves on CSS, JavaScript, and HTML. Okay, now in a real Quizomatic, there would kind of be three stages of use. There'd be a welcome message with some instructions saying, hi, welcome to it, how you want to do this, and then start the test, right? The testing portion gives them questions and records their inputs, right? Then finally, after they're done with that, you give them results, summary, tell them what they need to work on, right? Congratulate them for doing so wonderfully, okay? Right? We don't have that, okay? But our first step along the way is let's make sure we break things into components, okay? Let's make an intro component. I'm not going to say we're going to make these things complete, okay? We're going to prototype these up. Some will have functionality, some won't. That's okay. We're getting the major flow through this app together, okay? We've got some issues. We're going to have these components, right? A summary component, a quiz component, an intro component. How do we know what component to show? Where would we keep like the username? How would we track their quiz score and all those kind of things? For that, we'd like to keep some state, okay? Like where the user is in the app. How about the list of questions? What questions did they get? Where do those questions come from? Okay, who is the user? Are they a registered user? Or are they just a guest? What's their score? What's their history, etc., etc.? Okay. To do this, we're going to go beyond a function component and use a class component. There isn't that much to it, okay? We're going to create a class component, and we're going to inherit, extend from React's class component, React's component class, okay? we're going to see that we're going to have a constructor. We always have constructors function in JavaScript classes. Okay, and we always use a call super. We'll pass properties into this. Okay, this will come in as values. We're going to set up any state we want in here. Okay, and we can have all sorts of functions in here. The one other one that React's going to care about a lot is render. This function has to be there because this is how the class component, the React class component, returns some JSX to be shown. Okay, so it's going to have some state that we define. Okay, and just like a function component had to return JSX at the end, we have to have a render function that returns JSX. Otherwise, there'll be nothing to show out of this component. Okay, so that's the basic idea of a React class component. But there's more, and we'll get to that. So let's look at Quizomatic. Okay, first let's go to our wonderful repo full of different things, and we want to go to branch git checkout class comp 1. Okay, so now we can take a look at things. Where are we? Here's our index. Oh, right at the top here. We've got intro component we're importing. We got quiz that we're going to import from question. We got a summary we're importing from summary file. Okay, we got some CSS, blah, blah, blah. We're temporarily getting our questions from a JSON file. Okay. Constructor, super props. A member variable called state. Oh, so we set this up. This dot state. State, okay, is kind of special. It's not special to JavaScript, it's special to React. Okay, it's going to be an object, and we can set it up with whatever we want in it. Okay, so state's going to be an object. Okay, and we're going to set it up. Look here, I have a variable I defined, a member variable, a member property, whatever you'd like to call it. Show, and I say intro. I wonder what I'm going to be using this for. Ooh, I got state questions. Right now I'm just assigning this to the questions I read in. Why would you do this, Professor? Because later on, I'm not going to be getting my questions from a local JSON file. I'm going to be actually loading these things from a web server. Oh, so you're just prototyping this up now? Yeah, you got it. Okay, user variable. Okay, we're going to do everything stuff with all these things? Maybe, maybe not. Some of these things we're just prototyping and thinking ahead. Okay. Ooh. What did we say? Render has to return. Let's not jump ahead of ourselves. Okay, render has to return something that's going to be shown. What pattern am I doing? What am I doing here? Okay, just in case. First of all, I'll remind folks, go get the React Dev Tools. They have them for Firefox, and they have them for Chrome. I use both these. Okay, no mystery there. Okay, let's crank up. See what happens when we build this thing. Parcel index.html. While that's building, let's go examine that code a little bit more. Okay, so in our code, in the render function, let contents equals null. Okay, empty contents. Switch this dot state show. Oh, this is referencing the state and its show subvariable. Okay, it says in case intro, contents is going to be user intro, user this, that. Oh, so we have a component here. We're setting its user prop to this state user. Oh, what in case of questions? Quiz. Oh, for the quiz, I mean, you're going to have a quiz component. It's going to grab a bunch of questions from the question state. Oh, and a summary, okay? And just in case somehow state show got sent to something weird, I put in the default here that says contents warning, something went wrong. Okay, so this is conditional rendering. Okay, instead of ifs, we're using just a big switch statement. Okay, but this is conditional rendering. We're deciding what to show based on the state. Okay, and here's intro, greeting, hello friend, blah, blah, blah. If, blah, 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 user. Oh, we're going to say them by name, da, 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 da. This is to help you own your HTML skills. Okay, let's take a look. Well, did it compile? That's the first thing we should check before trying to take a look. It says it was built in 3.7 seconds. Okay, so localhost 1, 2, 3, 4. Blingo. Cool. Great. Wonderful. Professor. Yeah. You set your state, but there's no way to change your state. And we're not looking for the style header. We're looking for the components. Okay, so we see Quizomatic is showing intro. And it passed in as the prop to the intro component, user CS351. Hello, CS351. Professor, yeah. So what good is this? You can't change the state. We're getting there. We're getting there. Let's go up. Okay, so it showed us the props passed into intro. We come up to the Quizomatic. Not only does it show us props, which none were passed into it, but it also shows us the state. But there's magic here. I'm typing in something different for the show portion of the state. And I'm going to hit return. What happened? What happened? Oh, it's showing me all the questions. Oh, what happened? What happened? Quizomatic now is showing me the quiz. Oh. So somehow it actually took this change I typed right in here in the dev tool. Let's try summary. I scored 0 out of 0 in 12 minutes. Keep up the good work and come back soon. Well, that's kind of a lame summary. Okay. What did it take? It took the score, which we had no score. We took a bunch of properties, okay, and such like that, but there wasn't much to be said because we really hadn't set those variables. Oh, so I mean, before we get anything else working, like buttons and stuff like that, we can check out all our different components with this conditional rendering model just by, introds is not a valid value for show. So that's why it was good that I had that little thing there. Okay, so I get back to the introductory page, the intro component, and such like that. Okay, so now I can show those different things. Okay, this is cool. Okay, Professor, yeah, this is not a very good looking app. No, this is development. We're getting there. Okay, we're making sure each of those component works. We can look at them. I mean, if we were working on one of those components in particular, okay, what would I do? Okay, so let's say I was really working and doing a bunch of work on, say, the summary component. I would come in here, okay, temporarily just set this to summary. So the first thing that would come up and show me is the summary so I could see how I'm doing as I build that component. Okay, some of the stuff, yeah, okay, and then I can see the new changes and such like that. I can show the screens and such like that. Okay, so we're just incrementing towards our functionality. Okay, don't worry. Okay, here's the older view of what some of these tools look like. Quizomatic with the state. Okay, changing from intro to quiz. Okay, so when a class component state is properly changed, okay, React will call its render method, okay, to update the component. Okay, so let's take a look at once again at our code. Okay, so we said if this state is somehow properly changed, that means some way we let React know that the state changed, this method, render method, gets recalled, or it gets called again. So it can go through and render whatever it should do. Oh, okay, so we have to cooperate with React. Okay, React knows about to look for the state variable. We somehow have to tell it that it's changed or something. Then it will call the appropriate render method. Ah, so this is what we're working with a framework. We got to participate. Got to play along nice. Okay, so what do we mean by setting the React state correctly? Okay, don't do it directly. We're going to use a function, set state. Okay, I mean a method that we inherit, okay, from the React component class. Okay, it's called set state. We're going to use that. Okay, some details about performance and stuff. State updates are merged, so it's okay to call set state from different places with different pieces of the state and such. They'll bring them all together and do something efficient for you. Okay, we'll learn kind of a little bit more about that when we get to the JavaScript event loop and processing model. Okay, so when would you change state? User interactions. Ah, makes sense. Network interactions. You just received some new data, right? You got a timer that's doing some other thing or some other types of updates. Ah, okay. Well, I think we want to be able to do that, so we need some interactivity. Okay, so we need some buttons to click. I want to be able to click and say, take me to the intro, quiz me, results. Okay, so let's change the state via button bar. Okay, so let's go to class component 2. Okay, Control C. Okay, get check out class comp. Okay, parcel index starting again. Add a button bar. Okay, so here we are. Oh, let's look at it in the full editor. Let's make sure it's on JSX. Okay, so here we are. We got some stuff we're going to do. Oh, this is a little bit more complete yet. Okay, so how do I start this out? Okay, I'm just going to add a bunch of buttons. I'm going to call this a button bar. I'm going to have a variable set equal to a div named button bar. Okay, I have a bunch of buttons in it. Okay, this is how I'm starting out. Okay, just to get something up and showing. Okay, now there's a number of ways that the web platform allows us to get notified of DOM events. Okay, there's one approach, okay, where it's like we embed our JavaScript calls directly in the HTML via button on click. I never advocated this much, okay, or at all. I didn't actually let my students use this at all previously. Okay, I don't use it myself. Okay, another approach is the on-event handlers. They're a group of properties offered by the DOM to help manage how elements react to their events. Okay, so you don't get a gazillion of these, but common ones like a button will have an on-click handler. Okay, we haven't really used these much except in the document window on load handler. Okay, the way we did everything was via add event listener. Okay, very general, the most general that you can have, allows multiple listeners for the same types of events on the same object, etc., etc. Okay, for common things in React, we're going to actually do something similar to the HTML embedded in HTML approach, because everything is JavaScript here anyhow, right? It's JSX, Okay, so, oh, a little different though. Camel cased on click. So this really is, okay, feeding things into React, okay? And then we're going to pass it a function, a callback function. Oh, callbacks. Yeah, activate lasers. Okay, good. So let's do this. Constructor, setting the state. Ooh, I have an intro handler. Okay, I'm going to spit out event and event target. Okay, you press the button, show, blah, blah, blah. I have a quiz handler function, the event, set state, show quiz. Oh, I'm using the set state method. Good, good, good. Result handler. Okay, set state summary. Okay, let's take a look. Okay. Set state. Okay, this is the member function defined by React in the React component class. Purpose is to let React know that the state has been changed. Okay, not using set state kind of breaks React, right? How would React know that the state changed if you don't tell it? Yeah, okay, it's not magic. Okay, and you may think it is working when it really quite isn't, because you may not set, you may do something wrong, okay, but set state might get called in another reason, so it looks like it's working, but it really didn't pick up your change, and as you intended, it picked up a change someplace else. Okay, when your UIs get more complicated, these things can happen. Okay, so then you get weird things. It's like, it's not always picking up my state change. Did you really set the state properly? Okay. We need to be a little careful with this. Let's look at some of the syntax now. Okay, let's go down into our text. Okay, here's my button bar. Okay, button, button, button here. Now, ooh, we have this attribute-like thing on click. We're going to call the intro handler. Intro. Oh, so where's the button? Okay, this intro handler. Okay, so this is, we're referencing this from inside this intro handler. That's going to be this function. Okay. Now, everything's well and good, except when we say this intro handler, we're pulling this function out of its context. Okay? We're pulling this function out of its context and feeding it to this onClick thing. Okay? So that means when we come into this function here, we have no idea what this is going to be set to. But Professor, it's sitting within this thing. Yeah? We went through a whole exercise, a whole lecture on this. And I'm telling you, we need something more. Okay? And we're going to practice this. Okay? So that's why I'm doing this dot bind this. We saw dot call, dot apply, and dot bind. Dot bind binds this to this function. Okay? But it doesn't call it. We don't want to call things, right? Because that would cause us a major problem, because this would get called. Okay, if a function got called here, it'd get called once, non-click would be set to whatever was returned. A mess. Okay, that's another common thing that can go wrong in these on-click handlers. This has to be a function that can be called. Okay, it will be given an event handler, but we know that JavaScript functions don't, you don't have to use all the arguments, okay, and such like that if you don't want to. Okay, so that doesn't help us much. Okay, so subtlety here. Okay, notice that you use this all throughout. There's other places you can do this. Okay, some React people and references go up in the constructor and just go through and do a bunch of bindings up here. Either way, it's got to be done someplace. Okay. Now, where were we? Oh, let's demonstrate this. Okay. Did we remember to start it? Did we remember to check out class comp too? Yes, we did. Okay, so we're going to replay this. We should see some buttons. Let's make sure we've got a console to view. Console. Okay. We said when we clicked intro, it was going to spit out a bunch of things. Okay, you pressed a button. We get an object with all sorts of stuff. Okay, so where was that? Where was that? So intro, event target. You pressed a button, show intro. Oh, nothing changed. Oh, because we're already in the intro state. Let's try quiz me. It worked. It worked. Let's go take a look at our React stuff. Okay, components, quiz. Let's go and try the result button. Look at that. Quiz me. Buttons are working. We're able to change the state, change what we show. This is reminiscent of a real program with a menu that we can click on different things. Great. Okay. Try it without the bind call. Okay. Let's do that. We're allowed to break things for educational purposes. So, let's take away that bind, and that bind, and that bind. Why do I say this is going to cause problems? Each one of these handlers is going to make a reference to this because I know they want to call set state. The only way to get to that is this. Okay, so now I got to save this. Okay, did it work? Oh, well, it built. So what's the problem, Professor? Quiz me. Quiz me. It's not working. Oh my gosh. Type error. This is undefined. This is undefined. How can this be undefined? Ooh, getting more of them. This is undefined. Because, okay, it has no idea what this should be. Okay, because we pulled things out of context. Okay, so we pulled the function intro handler out of its context. Okay, we pulled it out of its object, its class that it belongs to, and we stuck it to here to be the onClick handler. When it gets called, intro handler, everything's working great up to here until we get to here, and it's like, well, what's this? Okay. We could get the global this. Does the global this have a set state on it? Yeah. So that's really necessary. Okay. It's because this depends on how things are called. Okay. So we had a whole lecture devoted to this. Okay. And do you think I forget to put that in? Yeah, I do. So be advised when you see those mysterious something's not there, look to see if you forgot to bind something or something of that nature. Okay. Quizomatic. Oops, not there. This is undefined. Okay. And what it even shows is right where it is. And you can. The only problem is it'll show you right where it is, but you're going, why is it undefined? Because of the context. So what is bind? Okay. From MDN, the bind method creates a new function that when called has its this keyword set to the provided value. Okay. So on functions, okay, All functions inherit from the function prototype, okay? Okay, so they all get a bind method. So when I have the function name dot bind, I can fix the whatever this is going to be on that function, okay? In addition, I can bind other arguments if the function takes more arguments, okay? Where this argument is the this you want to bind, and arg1, arg2, whatever are additional arguments you may want to bind, okay? And we're going to see a use for that, okay? Bind example, okay? 1. Okay. Copy. Let's first read the code. Here's module. Here's x. This is 42. Here's getX function. Return this x. Okay. So here I'm going to take. Ooh, that's a bad name for something to call it a module. Okay. But such is life. Okay. So here, what are we doing? Okay. I created this object with a method inside it, okay, with the terrible name module, okay. Then I pulled the function out. Now, what is unbound getX? Oh, they say it's a function. They say it's a function getX. So I should be able to call this function undefined. Return this x. That didn't work very well, did it? But if I say module, though, get x, it's a function. Oh, I get 42. Why is that? Because this somehow x wasn't defined. Okay. Why is that? Because in this simple case, this, in this unbound x case, this will actually get set to the global window context, and there's no x in it. Okay, there's XML back in it, but there's, okay, and all sorts of weird stuff, but there's no x. Okay. Now, what if I say, let's try this line here, where we're going to use, okay, we're going to use and try and bind it back. Okay, so bound get x, it's going to be a function, okay, or a variable that gets assigned to a function. Unbound get x dot bind, and we want to bind this to it. Well, module is an object, right? Okay, now if I run this, ooh, that works. Okay, so we see when I pull the method out of the object and try and run it, this is not clear what it should be. Okay, and sometimes you won't get undefined. You'll actually pick something up from a different context, which is even more confusing. Okay, or if it sets something on this, it'll set something in a context that it shouldn't be messing with. Okay, danger. However, we've got this unbound function. We could bind anything we liked, any object we like, as it's this argument. Okay, so we're able to put this back. Okay, professor, yeah, could you just go like x17 name hi? Could you do something like that? Why not? Okay. But this wasn't the function that original thing came from. No. What do you think it's going to do? Bound get x. Going to crash? No. It's just, I'm binding an object. This object contains the field that it was looking for. This object that I give it is going to become this. This object here has a field .x in it, so it'll use it. Oh, no mysteries here. Okay, we're binding an object to the function. It gets set then to this value. Oh, okay. Let's see the incomprehensible formal definition. The bind function creates a new bound function, BF. A BF is an exotic function object. That's actually a term from the ECMAScript 2015 standard that wraps the original function object. Calling a bound function generally results in the execution of its wrap function. Okay, wow. This is actually, though, a rigorous idea. Okay, I know it sounds kind of funky there. This is a functional programming idea. Okay, see Wikipedia on currying and JavaScript currying and partials. Okay, so JavaScript info reference here. Okay, Python also has some support for this kind of thing in its function tools, higher order functions and operations on callable objects. Sorry, that's all the way down at the bottom. Okay, we can use bind without this. This is kind of what you'd see if you were using curry type of thing, not the food, but the functional operation. Okay, so what do we have here? Function atom. Atom, like add x and y. Return x plus y. What? Var add 3. Atom dot bind. Null. Why null? Oh, this is where this would go. I'm not binding anything with this. I'm going to bind an argument 3 to, oh, I guess it goes for the first argument. Oh, let's try this. Copy. You should be trying these things, not just me. Okay, so once again, I just do the first couple of things. Let's see what add 3 is. Add 3 is a function, somehow related to atom. Add 3, 7. Whoa! It just adds 3 to the number. Add 3, 10. I created a new function. Okay, interesting. So it hasn't been called. Okay, so we can do all these things, but okay. So I was able to reduce the number of arguments it takes by 1. Okay, I bound this value 3 to the x argument. So I can create a lot of functions this way. Now this is a little fanciness, but don't sweat it. Okay, here I have an array. Okay, users, Dr. B, student X, student Y. It's an array. Okay, I have a function that I say hi name. Okay, so all it's going to do is take one parameter and fill it in name. Wow. I'm going to use something cool called an array destructuring assignment. Okay, here is user's map. Okay, so it's going to run something. Is an arrow function. Okay, it's going to run something on each element of the array. And I'm saying for each element of the array, return say hi dot bind null. Okay, so we're not doing anything with this, but we're binding. Oh, it only takes one argument. Okay, we're binding each of these strings to that first argument. Okay, let's try this. Cool looking code. Array destructuring. Do I really use it that much? No, but I wanted to try it here. Okay, so I'm going to actually wait on that. Okay, so I get Say hi. It's a function. Now, does it really take any values? Say hi. Hi. Oh, maybe I overwrote it. Let's see. Say hi. Oh, wait, sorry. Let's say it's an array of 3 things. What are those 3's? Hi, Dr. B. Hi, X. Hi, Y. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. Hi, Dr. B. Okay, that's a function. Hi, Dr. B. Oh, so it created 3 different little functions for me. These functions, these functions haven't been called yet. Hi, X. It's a function. Okay. I can call it with no parameters. Hi, student X. Okay. I can do that again with hi, Y. Now, I don't usually use these array deconstructors, but this is kind of interesting. Okay. Not the fact I'm using array, but this binding thing. Will we ever have a need for functions where we like bind a value to them? I use this pattern actually. It comes up a lot when I'm dealing with menus in React and such like that, where we're going to learn the pattern when we learn React data flows. Okay, so I have actually used bind without this, okay, for a different purpose, for this kind of purpose. We're going to create little functions, usually automatically. Okay, now we can do this without bind. Okay, what do you mean? We're going to use the closure thing. Closure, scary word. Remember, nested functions. Nested functions that somehow are returned and the inner function lives longer than the outer function. Okay, so here's a function that returns a function. Function hi func. Return function, oh, it's returning a function. What does this do? It says hi to S. Say hi S. Oh, wait, I'm returning this function. It's going to live longer than this internal thing, so it's going to remember this parameter that was fed down to it. That's the closure thingy. Okay, so this should work just like our other approach. Okay, is it easier? No, bind is easier to use. Okay, let's try it. Oh, hi, Dr. B. Hi, X. Hi, Y. Okay. So that closure stuff gets brought into play. Bind and closures kind of work similarly. Okay. So we can use bind to produce new functions with fewer arguments from a function with more arguments by fixing some of those arguments with bind. The function doesn't get called. This is different than that call and apply method that we could use to to fix this, right? This function doesn't get called, okay? Alternatively, more generally, we can use a function returning a function. Bind is the primary way for us to set this for a function in JavaScript, okay? Good, we know it. So now we know what to do when we deal with those errors. Now, let's review React state, okay? Properly setting React state. The basic idea is give React a new thing rather than changing a subpart of that thing and giving it back to React. Huh? This is easy for a property that is a primitive, say, like a string or a number. Okay? Properly updating the state of the show property. Oh, we just say set state show quiz. It's just a string. No problem. Ooh. The questions property is an array. Okay, and request, okay, and that's part of our state. The user, though a string, would most likely be a JavaScript object with a bunch of user info. Okay, so here, yeah, that's right now with simple string. Right now that's a simple string. This is an array. Okay, updating a state array. The wrong approach. Okay, suppose we allow users to add new questions to the quiz, or an administrator or something. So what might we do? This state.questions.push question, what does CSS mean? Blah. Okay, why does this look wrong? Why is this wrong? Because questions, state.questions is an array. State.questions, after we do push, is the same array. We're giving back in set state, this set state questions, this state question, we're giving back the same thing. How will React know that it changed? It's going to see the same object coming back, and it's going to go, huh? Okay. Because we're going to be giving it lots of different things, and it's going to do a simple compare. Is this thing the same? Is this thing the same? If it's not the same, it will do a state update, and it'll call render. If it is the same, it won't. Why would it bother? It's going to be efficient for us. This is wrong, okay? What we need to do is produce a new array and then set state to that new array. Wow, that sounds inefficient, Professor. Wait a second. Okay. Remember that JavaScript keeps things by reference for anything other than primitives, okay? So an array doesn't really have a set of values with it. It's a set of pointers to values, okay? So there are operations like concat. If you go look up concat, you'll see that it returns a new array instance, okay? You'll see a combination of different things. You'll see functions like sort that do things in place. They modify the array in place. Not good, okay, for the purposes of updating state. Okay. Concat returns a new array. What does it do? It just adds one thing to it and returns this reference to a new thing. Okay. It knows how to do this very fast and well. Okay. So now these new questions, this is a new array because this produces a new array and it doesn't mess with the old array. Okay. So then when we set state questions to new queues, it can clearly see that this is different from the old question state and will know to update things. Good. Wait a second. We have a bunch of array methods that work this way. Okay. If we remove elements from an array via the filter method always produces a new array with just those methods that satisfy the criteria. Oh, so if I use array filter when I want to take things out of a state array, I'll be good. Ooh, what if I have to update like an individual element? Use array map. Array map produces a new array that has been transformed by whatever the callback function you give it. Okay, so filter, map, and concat will do it for you. Okay, so if you got to update state arrays, remember you got to produce a new array and do not be sweating. Okay, the optimization aspects. Behind the scenes, these things know how to do things well. Okay, and if you get into a real performance thing, there are libraries that will do this nicely for you. Okay, what about objects, Professor? Okay, so here's a user. They've got sub pieces to them. Their first name, their last name, they got a net ID, are they in the class, etc. Okay, suppose you need to change part of a state property that is a JS object. Okay. The idea is use object assign. Create a copy of the object and then modify the copy and then use it in set state. Okay? So here we have this .state user. This is an entire object. Okay? This will create a new object. Okay? Modify it any way you like, and this test will work out just fine. Okay? So we've seen object assign before. What did we use it for? We said we don't get copy object. There's no such thing as copy object, but we have object assign to produce new copies, even combine things. Okay, objects. That's how we're going to update state. Now, data flows. Data flows in React. Okay, there's been a lot of thought about data flows in graphical user interfaces. Okay, and you used to hear people talk about one-way binding and two-way binding. After a while, as people worked through these things and made quite large applications, it kind of came to the conclusion that a one-way data flow is best. And so let's see what they mean. You'll always hear them talk about data flows down. Okay. State and let the data flows down. Okay. Told you they were going to say that. Okay. Neither a parent or child components can know if a certain component is stateful or stateless. So that if you're a component and you have a child component, you don't know if that component has state or not. Okay? And you shouldn't care whether it's defined as via function component or a class component. Okay? This is why state is often called local or encapsulated. It is not accessible to any other component than the one that owns and sets it. Okay? Meaning using set state. Great. Nice and straightforward. Good. Okay? A component can pass its state down as properties to its child components. Oh, that's how we can share state. We can pass it via props. Wait, but you can't pass things up through props. No, you cannot. You can never write to props. This is commonly called unidirectional data flow. Any state is always owned by some specific component, and any data or UI derived from that state can only affect components below them in the containment tree, i.e. we're going to pass it down as props. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Professor. Wait, since I cannot write to props, okay, and they should be treated as read-only, data flows down in the theme. What can we do? How could I change the state in the parent? Why would you ever want to do that, I ask? Wait a second. Quizmatic buttons. We put buttons to change the state in the toolbar that shows up all the time. Intro. Why do I need to see intro in the quiz in the intro component? And why should I be able to jump the results before I do the quiz? I think these things should be down in these components. Huh? Couldn't we put the result grade button only in the quiz section? Couldn't we put a button on the result section to take another quiz? Oh. That's right. Okay. Let's take a look at how we'd like this to work. How we'd like this to look. Control C. Get check out class comp 3. Run parcel, our bundler to build this thing. Okay. So what we'd like to do is something that looks like this. Okay. Have an about button. Okay. That's nice. Don't have to do anything. Take a quiz. Okay, so that should tell us about the app. Have a take a quiz button. However, this button, we can't change the state in the upper React app. Right? We just said you can't do that. Okay. So we'd like to then, okay, React app. Let's go take a look. The other pieces, okay, blah, 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 blah. Let's go look at components. Okay, let's go look at Quizomatic, showing the intro. Let's see if I want to see quiz. Oh, I can click grade it, okay. And if I go to summary, okay. That's what we'd like it to look like. Now, how can we do this? Huh? What good is passing a function down? Pass the function down. We already have event. Oh, that's right. We do. We already have all these event handler functions, right? Intro handler, quiz handler, result handler. Now these guys are saying, pass the appropriate function down to child components via properties. Well, that's right. Functions can be passed as arguments. This is JavaScript. We pass functions around all the time. Okay? So we can pass a function down. Okay? But when they call that function, it's kind of like functions are calling upward. So we can call that function from someplace else. So that's why a lot of times people like to say is data flows down, but functions can call up. Okay? So let's see this. Okay? Passing functions down. Okay. Button bar. Intro handler bind this. About button. Okay. Oh, okay. On click intro handler. That's fine. Nothing new there. Intro. Oh, intro. Oh, wait. We already did that part. Take quiz. This quiz handler bind this. This is a function. We're passing it into this properties thing. Oh, here's the result handler button. We're passing it into this quiz thing. I mean, this is the result handler, not button. It's just a function. We're passing it into the quiz component as some kind of graded property. Oh, let's take a look what's happening inside those things. Okay, so let's take a look inside question.js. Return div. Oh, wait. Quiz. Here's the quiz. Function quiz. Quiz. Button click. Grade it. Oh, all the cues. Then button click. Oh, we're just saying props. Grade it. Ooh, nice simple usage. Oh, that's right, because we already have everything bound nicely by the time we passed it in. Okay, so on click is going to call props graded. Let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Take another quiz. It worked. Graded. About. Oh, that takes me to the beginning. Hello, I see. So that does work. It just doesn't do anything when you're on that page. Take the quiz. So this is how we get out of this dilemma. We pass functions down. Okay. Now I'm showing functions being passed down to, what kind of components were these? Oh, these are just function components. So I can pass a function from a class component down into a function component. It doesn't matter. Once again, we shouldn't care what kind of component. We don't know necessarily what kind of component any component we're using is, whether it's got state or not. Okay, so that didn't matter. Ah, nice. Okay, let's take a look. So we saw receiving this, here's the quiz, the buttons, graded. Okay, we pass the function down, it will do things. So I usually, okay, there's another again. When I create menus, I've started creating more complicated menus for my apps, and I create those kind of on the fly and it's gotten complicated. So I have a menu component. Now the menu component is just showing the menu. What I pass to it is I pass from some stateful component down into the menu component a function that allows that menu to call back and tell that guy, tell the stateful component that it belongs to, that it's a subcomponent of, what just got clicked. Okay, so there you have it. Very Very quick and lots of things there. We had, let's just review what we saw. Okay. We had the concept of state. Okay. Why to keep stuff. Okay. How to properly set state. Okay. In class components. We use that set state function. Okay. When we first set up the state, we didn't need that. Okay. We saw that common events like button clicks and stuff like that, we can just put stuff right there in the JSX. Okay. Go see the reference. You'll see that like button clicks, input, change events from common controls are all there. Okay. We learned that this is an issue. Okay. And that we can fix it with bind. Okay. And we saw bind could be used for creating little functions that haven't been get called by binding data to them. We learned this concept of data flows down. Okay. You can't write the properties. What you can do is you can pass a function down that gets called by in that component that you passed it down to, which essentially then notifies the upper level component of something. Okay, but it keeps things under strict control. All right, React class components. Go out and build something.